Good morning. Rotate my phone. I think I'm good. I don't know if I'm sideways. I apologize. Tina O here from Tina O Life on this beautiful, beautiful winter morning. Look at this sunrise. Can you see that? Oh my gosh, see that ocean back there? Wow, these are beautiful, beautiful days. So, I'm starting a new series. Can you tell I'm just a little bit sleepy? Just a little bit sleepy. I'm starting a new series called The Call, little video series, because I'm a core story specialist. And what that means is I work with people to help them identify the story that is them and how that story lives in the world. Specifically, helping people really give themselves permission to hear the call that is inside of them. So I thought I would just start with walking you through like little stories about how that happened for me, how I heard my own call to that story. And your story from the core is that anchor of who you are in each footstep that you take. It's the anchor that says, this is my path and not somebody else's path. I'm on mine, and I know I'm on mine because of the way it feels when I'm walking it. And it really is, I think it's different for everybody. For me, I would say it's a feeling. I know for me, my anchor word is peace, peaceful. And funny enough, that didn't come from me. It's not like, I just went, oh, peaceful's the word. Like, no, it came through somebody else. And there's another piece of work that I do called Story Stones. And Story Stones is this idea that we meet people in our lives who bring us a stone. They're here to bring us something. And so this message came from somebody else. And anyway, in brief, and I'll probably tell the story another time, but in brief, I was having a total meltdown this one day, probably about 5 years ago. And I was sitting in my car and I couldn't get out of my car. I literally couldn't get out of my car. Like I couldn't get out. I was having a meltdown. On the inside, like on the outside, it wasn't like, losing my mind or crying or whatever. I was just like, on the inside, I was shaking, if that's ever happened to you. And I grabbed my phone and I messaged a friend of mine who lives across the planet in Australia. And I said, oh my God, I can't breathe. And oddly enough, different time zones, he picked up and he sent me a message back. And he said, touch something, just touch something. It'll remind you that you live in a body and that you're here. And then he said, lean into what's peaceful. And that stayed with me. And that's that thing about Story Stones. Story Stones are these messages that people bring us and they stay with us. It's like a blind spot in our life that when somebody else gives it to us, it illuminates that dark corner. So anyway, that's how I know I'm on my path, on my story, is when I feel peaceful inside. So this idea of the call, they're like these little stones that we collect throughout our lives. And then one day we give ourselves permission to build our house there, which is also not mine. That's Liz Gilbert's in her. She's got that great TED Talk where she says, all I know is find the thing that you would do whether you got paid or not, and build your house there. I love that. It's one of my favorites. And that's the same thing. That's core story to me. It's like that's where your home is. So I've got my first sort of remembering of that place called peace and home inside myself. First time I remember it. And I'm sure I had times before this because I have kids and I can see when they're in their home place, like inside. But the first time I remember it distinctly and I like I use it all the time. I use this image all the time. I was actually sitting on a ferry. I was probably 9 or 10 years old, maybe 11. And it was just as the sun was going down. It was past magic hour, you know, in that magic, beautiful light. It was beyond that. It was, the sun had gone down, but so the sky was like purpley blue. So you could just make out that once upon a time there was orange light back there. And the ocean took on, like, look at the ocean back here right now. It's not quite, can't quite see it. You can see a little bit. The ocean took on this like hue that is like otherworldly, right? Like we just can't make that kind of paint. And I was sitting on the ferry with my dad, sitting on the deck outside, and the moon and the stars were just like starting to be able to be seen, and the ocean was that unbelievable color, and we didn't say a word. My dad was a smoker, so there he was, you know, smoking, staring off into the distance, looking at the ocean. And as a little girl, there was something about that moment of looking to see what he saw, looking to feel what he felt. And there was a connection in that place between us, no words. And it wasn't a connection like father-daughter connection. It's that connection, that place of going, wow, I get this. Whatever this is, I am here. I am home. Now I'm 10 years old, so I wasn't having that thought. But now, as a grown woman, I think about that moment a lot. That was the first moment where I clicked on the inside of this is home. I just recently moved to this beautiful house by the ocean. And as I look around in my home, my father keeps coming back to me. I've been very nostalgic for this first week, lots of tears, like soft, gentle tears. And I have this painting in my house that I'll show you later, another call. And I looked at that painting, and I bought that painting because it reminded me of my father, and it reminded me of the home inside of him. And I looked at that painting, and I looked at this view, and I thought, oh, there's that call again. There it is. So this series called The Call will be a bunch of little snippets of how I traced the steps to the work that I do now as a core story lady, what it felt to get here, what some of the snippets were that I saw and know, and all the frickin' crazy insecurities that come up with saying, oh my gosh, I've got a call. I have a calling. Like, holy Dinah. The world looks at you like, oh, it makes you special. I mean, these are just the voices I have in my head, right? Oh, so you've got a calling. I guess that makes you special. Or what if I don't have a calling? What if you're making that shit up? Like, I hear all of that. Or I heard in my head, who are you to? Who are you to think that you, whatever, right? All I know, going back to Liz Gilbert, all I know is find that thing. It's not even find it really, because it's not like it was ever lost. It's inside you. Land in that thing that you are, that you be, that you do if you're a doer, that you say if you're a communicator. Land in that thing, and as she says, and build your house there. That's your story from the core, and that's the place that you're called to live from. That's what I know. I'm Tina O from Tina O Life. This is my series called The Call, my first story about sitting on the ferry with my dad in a place called home that's peaceful for me, that anchors me when I know I'm off my path, when I don't feel like that. Even if the outside world is like, blah, my inside world, if I can come back to that place, then I know I'm in my call. I'm Tina O from Tina O Life. I'll see you again. Happy morning. Glorious. Glorious. Ciao, everybody.